what is the Kerry Tourism Industry Forum? So basically, it's a forum for business people and employers. So as you may have heard me commenting before, it's for the people who are kept awake at night, thinking about their business, the people who are their own personal wealth and future, and the future of their families is invested in tourism. So as I say, with a vested interest in the tourism of the county, with a view to development of the tourism in Kerry, and I'm conscious that we want to keep emphasising this is about the county of Kerry, not any particular part of the county, but the whole county and how we can develop the whole county as a tourism destination in a sustainable way. And when we talk about sustainability, we talk about it with a big S. So we're talking about obviously environmental sustainability, but also economic, employment, and obviously looking after the natural assets that make the tourist industry, that are fundamental to the tourism industry in Kerry. Again, to repeat, with a focus on tourism within the whole county, without favour to any one industry, sector or geographical area. And you can see from the membership that bears through. So we've 13 founding members as of today, everything from the vintners and the IHF, so the sector, all the different sectors that are involved in tourism, but also all the different geographical areas like the Chambers of Commerce in the various large towns and the tourism development agencies in the smaller areas around the county. And as you can see from this, it's a very wide and very diverse membership group, which from the point of view of development tourism Kerry we feel is essential and fundamental to making it work, that everybody feel that they can trust in the organisation and trust that it will be looking after their interests without any favour to any particular area or any particular interest. So I suppose when we kind of started off about 2.5 years ago, we posed ourselves a couple of questions, and we've worked with a couple of different consultants and experts in the area of destination promotion and development internationally. So this is not just us talking to ourselves. We have consulted widely about what would be the best way to go forward, and this question was posed to us. If tourism in Kerry was a single business with a potential turnover of 410 million, and these are Fáilte Ireland's figures we have, but it's not about the figures really, but it's just the context and the scale that's most important. With projected growth of 3% over the next 5 years, a business that potentially employs 7,000 people, with 1,500 enterprises in the local supply chain, with 1.6 million customers, 70% of which international, and at present 8.2 million spent on marketing. And I suppose the question we need to ask ourselves is, if this is one business, if the tourism industry in the county was one business, how respected would we operate, would we organise ourselves the way we're organised at the moment? And if we were, let's say, a foreign direct investment company based in Boston or something, and you were thinking of setting up in Ireland, what kind of attention would you get from the powers that be if you were proposing to come in and employ 7,000 people and to generate 400 million euros worth of turnover in a regional destination? And keep that in mind, we're a regional destination. We're not Dublin, and while we are looked on with envy among other parts of the country, that's not really for us to be concerned about. We need to shout for our own county and what we can do for our own business and our own tourism. So if the company could think, act and talk like a business, like a single business, how would it organise itself? And I suppose one of the answers to it would define and measure success in advance and be judged by its action and results, and that's what we're hoping to try and do with the Kerry Tourism Industry Forum. Some key observations for some of these consultants is that further cohesiveness and collaboration within the tourism industry would strengthen the tourism offering of the county. And some of you will have been on the trip to Inverness and Loch Ness that we took back in March, where it showed while the problems aren't the same as we have in Kerry in terms of the issues that impact on them there, they have shown and demonstrated to us that the solutions can be very similar. And it is about collaboration, working together as industry, as private operators. The individual pieces of the tourism in Kerry jigsaw would benefit from a cohesive, coherent body, ensuring the pieces fit together to make up one overall well-constructed picture. And I suppose that's what we're trying to do with the industry forum. But at the first instance, we feel it's important that the industry and private industry steps up to the plate first. Obviously, it will involve engagement with the county councils, the state agencies charged with the promotion and development of tourism. But in the first instance, we have to get our act together as private operators and make sure that we're stepping up to the plate and doing what we need to do. And this body could help with areas of mutual benefit when liaising with other stakeholders tasked with the management and development of tourism in Kerry. So the feeling is that While we would work closely with all the agencies, with the county council, etc. However, there are a lot of things that as private operators we can do, we can say, and we can action that maybe the state agencies and the NGOs can't do to the same extent. So these are the kind of three, when we just kind of looked at the various different issues and problems that might be impacting on our industry and the development in the future, sustainability of our industry, these are the kind of three main, they could all be summarised into these three main areas. So advocacy means obviously speaking on behalf of the tourism industry in the county to do the best we can for our industry. We're talking about insurance later on. What can we do as an industry to move the whole insurance agenda forward? What can we do to shout as loud as we can for our county in terms of development, in terms of getting resources, and speaking on behalf of the private industry. And communication then is a third one, or second one, sorry. How can we communicate appropriately? So this is 360-degree communication. So this means up to people that impact on policymakers. It's I suppose downwards in terms of the industry and ourselves, and communicating better among ourselves to make sure that we're all on a similar page and working towards similar goals in terms of the future and sustainability of the industry. But also laterally to our customers, obviously, a certain amount of it could be marketing, and what I want to emphasise is not just about marketing. That would and should be a key element of it, but also communication with the local population, with the people who live in the host community, the people who live in Kerry who may not feel that they're directly impacted by tourism, but at the same in terms of benefits, but feel maybe in terms of congestion or other things and the development of tourism, they feel that they have a voice and that we want to be heard. We should be, I suppose, speaking with one voice as an industry when we talk to the host communities. And also, as many of you will have heard me talk about before, in terms of strategic focus, looking at the long-term development of the industry. And many of us are family businesses. Many of us are thinking generationally. We don't think in 5 and 7 and 10-year plans. We tend to think in, will there be a business there for my kids and for our grandkids. And also, you'll have heard me commenting in relation to, obviously, we welcome, for example, the Macroom and the Adair bypass. Like, they're fantastic initiatives. And we're very grateful to Minister Griffin for advocating those, and those need to happen, and they're vital for the development of the county. But what we don't want is that those roads go both ways, and that the towns of Kerry become satellite towns and dormitory towns for Limerick and Cork, and that our kids who want to work in the tourism industry are competing with maybe people working in Cork and Limerick for housing and for other resources locally. We want a sustainable industry in the county that people can feel that they can work in and they can have a good quality of life, both living and working in the county through tourism. So the Kerry tourism industry is formalising a structure to address these main points, and that's a lot of what today is about. To talk about issues around the industry, but also to try and engage with the wider industry to encourage to get involved and to support the initiative. So just briefly, a newly emerging model for sustainable destination development, and this again would be hopefully a focus for the forum going forward, the recognition, recognising the importance of tourism in County Kerry and the rural economy and the communities, relationships and the building of relationships, ensuring a shared vision, strategy for tourism based on common trust and common values, the relevance of products, experiences. As we know that the customer demands are changing all the time, we want to make sure that what we offer in Kerry is relevant to the markets out there at the moment, and how we might need to change and adapt to make ourselves as attractive as possible in a very competitive market, and we're going to talk about that again later on. Responsibility in the development of a sustainable, empathetic, sensitive and responsible approach to tourism development, respecting the assets of the destination, its environment, socio-cultural interests and of the tourists and the capacity of the host community. And then respect, finally, for the interest, the well-being of all parties included in the host community, the business community and the visitors to County Kerry. I suppose we're all seeing that the trend towards visitors coming to the county and to the country in general, they want to feel they're contributing to the area. They don't want to feel that they're a drain on the resources of a particular county or whatever. And we're seeing situations in the likes of Venice and Barcelona, and we don't ever want to get that in Kerry. So we want to see how we can organise ourselves better, so we can cope with increasing numbers, but at the same time that they're adding extra value to the local community, and that they're contributing, I suppose, in terms of instead of taking away. So I'm going to introduce the first session of the morning, and we're delighted that first of all Brendan Griffin could be with us. So Brendan Griffin, TD, Minister of State for the Department of Transport, Tourism and Sport. So thanks for coming on today, Brendan. Ciara Sugrue, Head of Festivals and Events with Fáilte Ireland. Siobhan McManamy, Director of Markets for Tourism Ireland, and the session is going to be hosted and moderated by Fiona staff. I would also, so if you want to come forward we'll start this part of the session. I would say that we did invite Myra Morell from the County Council to come on. She couldn't come, but John Griffin is here somewhere in the room. So John is observing, and I'm sure if anyone has any questions for John, he'll be happy to field those in later. So, are we all ready?
Perfect.
Will I hand over to you, Fiona? Okay, ready to go.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, as per the focus of today's forum is tourism and the tourism sector within the county as a whole, and to see how by working together we can ensure that the industry is resilient into the future. There are structures in place to face any challenges, ensure a high quality product, sustainable employment, proper research and planning, and to ensure there's a clear voice that exists when it comes to lobbying for the industry. To build for the future, we need to start by examining what we already have. So for the first discussion, as you've heard, we're joined by Minister Brendan Griffin, Ciara Sugrue from Fáilte Ireland, and Siobhan McManamy from Tourism Ireland, who are going to tell us about the initiatives that are being carried out by national bodies that are pertinent to Kerry. So we might start off with yourself, Minister.
Yeah, thanks, Fiona, and good morning, everyone. And can I just first of all commend everybody involved in organising today's event. Seeing this number of people here in the room today and this attendance here this morning, I think is very encouraging, and it absolutely just reminds me just how important this industry is here in this county in terms of employment, in terms of overall economic contribution. There's an awful lot of work going on. A huge effort being made at national level that permeates every community in the country. And that is the one thing I think that always strikes me in relation to this industry, whereas certain industries are, maybe heavily focused towards Dublin or East Coast. The tourism industry employs 260,000 people, and that 260,000 figure is made up from every community in the country. And in certain areas, as we know here in Kerry, 1 in 5 people employed in the tourism industry as well is critically important. I think the key thing is collaboration from national level and at government level. Collaboration with our agencies. Delighted to be here this morning, joined on the platform with Siobhan McManamy representing Tourism Ireland, and also Ciara Sugrue representing Fáilte Ireland. And that collaboration with both government agencies is critical. But without collaboration with the industry and the people at the cold face and organisations representing the industry and individual representatives of the industry, I think we'd all be operating in isolation. So that's critical. What's really important as well is ensuring that the budgets that Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Ireland have are adequate to do the type of work that they want to do, to meet their targets, to achieve what they're capable of achieving. And over the last 2.5 years, I suppose I'm seeing the fruits of the marketing initiatives, for example, by Tourism Ireland internationally and here domestically as well by Fáilte, and how much can be achieved by getting the additional resources into those industries. I've been fortunate enough to be able to travel with Tourism Ireland to some of our key markets to help out with initiatives and with trade events. And it really has rammed home to me how important it is to get more money in. That's why the 7 million that we got recently in the most recent budget to be spent between the budget and the end of the year is really important, particularly in the context of Brexit, as was the huge increase that we got for both agencies last year. Similarly, I think investing in capital product development is really, really important. And as was referred to by Patrick there, you need to remain relevant. You need to keep your product interesting. You need to have the unique selling points that jump out at people and that attract people. So investment in product, in things like greenways and our festivals, and Ciara is going to talk to you about that. And all the other things that attract people set Ireland aside is critically important. And again, that couldn't happen without injection of funding from the state as well. And that's very much where I see my role, is trying to fight for every scrap we can possibly get at the top table to ensure that we can get adequate resources into tourism. And we've done well in the last couple of years, but I want to do more. I want to be able to even do more than that. In terms of our department directly, Number of issues I think that are very important in terms of the agencies develop the industry on the ground and help to work with the industry on the ground, but particularly in relation to our department, I think access is a key thing where we can have a key role, and that's why Patrick referred to both the Adair bypass and the N22 Ballygony-Macroom Road. They're critically important for this county. I'm delighted next Friday I'll be attending the contract signing in Cork for the commencement of works on the N22 Ballygony-Macroom, and that has been talked about for 30 years. It's happening now, and that is something that's really important to this town, to this county. And I know Patrick referred to the risk of flight out of the county as well, but I think that the impacts will be overwhelmingly positive for this county. And Adair, again, another 450 million project at the other side of the county. Our two key arteries are going to be significantly improved. That is important, but also, of course, to ensure that the demand is there, to get people in and out is the key thing. Also, Kerry Airport is another key access point for the county, and we're investing even further now in terms of our capital investment. We've doubled capital investment for 2019 for Kerry Airport. We continue to support the Kerry-Dublin PSO flights, which are really important in terms of connecting to that international hub that is Dublin. And also as well, we're supporting the existing routes and potential new routes through our regional access fund, which we are doubling for 2020, and we're hoping to raise that to over €10 million between now and 2022, which is really important in terms of the collaboration that happens between airlines and the airports and Tourism Ireland in terms of marketing and sustaining those routes as well. So there's an awful lot going on. There's a lot of things I haven't touched on there as well. But very much, I suppose, what I see my role is a collaborative approach, working with the agencies, working with industry, but in terms of within government and fighting for the best possible budgets they can possibly get that affects everybody in this room and everybody working in the industry.
Thank you, Minister. Siobhan, the Minister said there he's giving you lots of money, so you want to tell us how you intend spending it?
And every penny spent wisely. We'll be looking at our plans next Monday, and really pleased with that. It's a 3-year plan to 2022, is around regional growth and season extension. I suppose at a national level, the regional growth is about getting people to come to Kerry. But I think within Kerry then, the regional growth piece is 2 pieces to it. Regional specific missions around the Reeks district and the Dublin Peninsula for next year. And then when you get to Killarney, it's about maintaining the peak and make sure that we keep the business in the summer and see how we can extend that season. Because every 2 weeks we can extend that season on further. It is people in jobs for longer, and it's more money into the bottom line. So the focus of the next 3 years is really about kind of spreading that success. And a much tougher year, I think, in 2019. Things were certainly softer, and what seems to be with 2019 is that some people had a good year and some people had a not great year, and it's inconsistent right across the country as to where that is, and within counties as to where it went well and where it didn't. Direct access is a huge piece for us in Kerry, and the fund the Minister just mentioned there, that 10 million fund over 3 years. Already Shannon have gotten 2 routes over the line with that, which would certainly benefit Kerry, but Kerry Airport itself, we've been working with them on that. It's new plans for new routes and then how we maintain the current routes. So we've done 6 campaigns last year on the London routes and the 2 routes in Germany, and much more of that next year. That fund is going to allow us to do much more to promote that direct access and straight into Kerry. If you land here, you're more likely to spend their full holiday here. Maybe just to run around the market areas then, in GB, we did a big review that we wanted to start this year. And the 2 really key findings in the GB review was about repeat visitors. Is that, a British visitor on the first visit will tend to go to Dublin, tend to have that city break. But when they come back the second time, they want to explore more. So something that's live at the moment is that people returning on the London flight from Dublin at the moment are getting a message on the boarding card saying, next time, why not fly direct to Kerry? Or why not fly direct to the Wide Atlantic Way? And saying to them, you're coming back again, come and discover another part of Ireland. So that repeat visitor, and we will be doing a lot of workshops with Fáilte Ireland and the industry in the first quarter of next year around how the industry can work with repeat visitors, because obviously you're all sitting on database and visitors have been here before, visitors who visited you, and I think that collaboration point that Patrick mentioned is that if we can get people working together, that someone who'd be a repeat visitor for you could be coming from another hotel where they stayed previously. And the second bit of the GB review was around hubs and what people can do. So in the British market, we are very much seen as almost a domestic market. So what they want to come here for is kind of 4 and 5 night stays. But they want that to be really, really easy. So a big piece of the work that we're undergoing at the moment, and we'll be coming back to the industry on, is how somebody who lands in Kerry Airport, what a 4 or 5 night holiday could look like around that. That's incredibly easy. That somebody can just imagine it's almost as easy as a city break. You can just land here and then they've got this 4 or 5 night break around it. And there's a really big piece of work to be done on that, because Brexit hasn't killed the British market as we had thought. The British market will be down between 1 and 2% this year. And what we're seeing is that there's potentially an opportunity for Ireland, that the common travel area is that if people want a foreign holiday, Ireland is foreign and easy, if that makes sense, rather than potentially having queues to get across the English Channel and potentially having the difficulty of getting into Europe. And we've been doing a lot of work around, making sure everyone's very comfortable with the common travel area. And Mr. Griffin helped us a lot with this at World Travel Market, is that people know about that, they know how easy it be to come to Ireland. So the British market certainly hasn't been killed by Brexit. We're actually seeing the impact far more widely in mainland Europe, unfortunately. And going to mainland Europe, what we're seeing in mainland Europe is that the uncertainty is causing real difficulty. In the German market, which is obviously crucial here in Kerry, they fear they're going into recession, they fear Brexit is going to bring them into recession. And so while this uncertainty continues, they're kind of not making travel plans. Once uncertainty goes, be it good or bad for them, they'll start travelling again. But the uncertainty is just causing this kind of logjam, and the UK and Ireland are kind of being brought together in their thought set. So the German market definitely challenging for next year. Very aware of the 2 direct flights in from Germany, so we probably very much focus on the opportunity they present. We have been doing a big bit of work with the travel trade right across mainland Europe at the moment, reassuring them about the ease of travel, that business as usual, that Brexit changes nothing in terms of travel to Ireland. And we will be doing a big travel trade initiative in Germany, for Germany in Killarney later on in the year next year. We also see a very specific opportunity for Kerry in Southern Europe, so Italy will be doing a lot of work, and the Italian market and the French market doing a lot of work in Kerry next year. And then we, because that's kind of untapped, because the German market has been doing so well, and we'll also be reinvesting in the Dutch market next year. The Dutch market is one that is a really consistent high performer, particularly when it gets to spreading business beyond the main areas. The US then is Aer Lingus will be increasing their flights by 10%. The capacity next year, there'll be no new routes, but actually that's a good thing because it allows us to concentrate our efforts. We've 15 gateways in the US now, and with 9 feeder cities that we're active in. I know the US coach business this year was probably a bit trickier for Kerry than it had been previously. The government shut down in the early part of 2019 and really kind of stagnated that market a bit, but that's looking much more positive for next year as we stand now. So we see that US group and coach business coming back up, but certainly more seat capacity coming in from the loss of the Norwegian services this year, which were obviously a huge loss for this part of the country. And then I suppose finally emerging markets, and it's not going to make anyone's business today, but the China market is going to increase to about 400 million outbound visitors by 2030. And they're increasingly becoming sophisticated. It's not that Chinese coach tour business there was previously. They are starting to look and act a lot more like Fáilte visitors who want luxury experiences, and we have identified there's a lot about Kerry that really suits that kind of affluent younger Chinese visitor who wants a luxury experience but a very authentic experience, and definitely will be more we'll be doing there.
And I know that's something that Tralee Chamber Alliance were looking at last week. So thank you, Siobhan. Ciara, you want to tell us what Tourism Ireland's plans are?
Firstly, can I just say it's great to be here, and I'm delighted to have this opportunity because, to see the industry coming together, it shows the commitment, and there is massive opportunity there. As the Minister said, Fáilte Ireland has a wide-ranging capital investment programme in Kerry, and working on the ground with industry around the EDPs and across a number of areas. But I'm specifically going to talk around the festivals and events area. And I suppose Fáilte Ireland really wants Ireland to be recognised as a centre of excellence for festivals and events, and high impact festivals and events that can really make a difference. Our focus is really around events that can motivate international visitors to travel, that can spread the business in off-peak times and across regionally across the country. I mean, they're really the focus. So we have a number of different investment programs and we've just completed doing a major review of all the festivals that we fund throughout the country, and I suppose that it really focused us more around a really solid strategy about really making a difference. So currently festivals persuade about 200,000 visitors directly to visit Ireland, and that's valued at about 110 million. So we see in the next 2 years that we want to grow that to 300,000 visitors at a value of about 150 million contribution. So it's a valuable thing, and it's something that it also is, gives us an opportunity to really present Ireland in a way that talks about its people, its culture and its landscape in a way that is really engaging for people. So that's a really important part of the festivals. We currently invest about 3 million directly in festivals in the country. And in 2019 we will invest in about 25 high impact festivals and in Kerry specifically we work closely with the Rose of Tralee, Bike Fest, Other Voices, the Stoll Writers Week, as well as working through the local authority. We invest in a further about 20 festivals which are more local community-based festivals, while in themselves might not actually motivate visitors, are a very important part of the visitor experience when they're here and really add that to the visitor experience and the opportunity to engage with locals. So that's an important part of the work. And some of those local festivals would be like the Dingle Film Festival, Fáilte in Galtana, and I mean there's 20 across the counties. There's quite a number of them. We also, 2 years ago, with the support of the Minister, we created a new festival in Kerry, May the 4th Be With You Festival. And while a lot of people find it a different and amusing kind of one to do, it's really based on, it has given us such massive international media coverage, to really tell the story that some of the greatest movie makers in the world chose this part of the world and this part of Ireland to centre and to focus on as their destination and their location for filming. And we've had some great success in that it has really grown over the last 2 years. It has attracted in international visitors. It has really highlighted and given us such, it's valued at about 25 million, the international coverage that we've got for this part of Kerry for this time of year, out of season and spreading across that part of the county. So it's a really good initiative and one that we're looking forward to going forward, working on in the future. Another new initiative that we've worked on is that we can see that St. Patrick's, and we know St. Patrick's Day is celebrated internationally as the day that the world focuses on Ireland. And while St. Patrick's Festival in Dublin is a hugely successful event and really builds numbers there, we set about doing a pilot project earlier this year where we chose 7 destinations in Ireland to look at how we could really set about Ireland as the place to be for St. Patrick's Day, and that it's not about Dublin. There's a perception internationally that Dublin was the place to be, and what we want to do is really change that to it's everywhere in Ireland has St. Patrick's Day events, celebrations, and Ireland, you can be at lots of different parts of Ireland. So we worked with 7 destinations around the country on a pilot project, and 3 have come out as being fit for purpose and ready to market. And we're working with them straight away, and then we're working on a development plan with some others. And the 3 that have come out are Killarney, Cork and Limerick. So we're working with a group here in Killarney to really work out a development plan going forward for the next 3 years to really bring the Killarney St. Patrick's celebrations up to a much higher level and to really market them internationally. And we've no doubt that will have a knock-on and positive effect right throughout the county. The other initiative that we launched this year was the Taste the Island initiative, which is about celebrating food, and it's an all-Ireland initiative which really celebrates that, and again addressing that perception that Ireland, a lot of people aren't aware of the great food provenance. And we've been working with a lot of food providers and food events and food festivals right across the country from mid-September to mid-November. We're doing that again next year, and Kerry has been very, very involved in that. And there's an opportunity to get more involved and do more around that. There's a huge domestic marketing campaign behind that this year, and more on the international coming for next year as well. And finally, we have an innovation fund, which is around what's the big idea. And this is a fund specifically aimed at addressing, inviting people, I suppose, to come to us with big ideas for new festivals. There's strict criteria around what will work. It can't be high season, it can't be the bank holiday weekends, but we're looking for those big ideas. We will evaluate them, and we do have a fund to support them and to support the development of them and to carry out feasibility studies or mentoring or whatever people may need to get that idea off the ground. It's on a rolling basis. There's no closing date, so people can apply anytime they like, and we'd love to hear some more ideas from Kerry.
So there's an open invitation in terms of the Innovation Fund, and great to hear about St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And if the panel are happy to take questions, so we're going to question them while we have them here captive. So if there's anybody from the audience who would like to pass up a question, and Ciara is happy to take it from you. But just before I just go back to yourself, I suppose you touched on it yourself. Like one of the biggest problems probably facing the country at the moment is the question of regional imbalance, and it's almost like Dublin will topple over with growth and people and housing problems and stuff like that. And tourism is probably still the first and the original regional development product that is very strong in a county like Kerry. And I think for everybody here in the room, one very quick way to protect that would be to look at the VAT rate. Again, I know you've said that you made the case, but do you think you're any closer to being heard?
Yeah, I mean, I've repeatedly made the case. I was one of the voices looking for the introduction of the 9% VAT rate initially back in 2011, and that was successful. As people know, there was a 2.5-year temporary 9% reduction, and I was one of the voices that every year for 5 years was successful. In 14, 15, 16, 17, in respect of 18 as well, in getting that retained. Unfortunately, was not successful in getting it retained and extended for the 5th time in 2019. And that's something that's, I regret. It's obviously it's a government decision, and I'm a minister within that government. But I feel that actually the normal VAT rate for this country should be 9%. It shouldn't be considered as a special VAT rate. I think the normal, proper, competitive VAT rate that we should have here is 9%. And again, it's something looked at in the most recent budget. Again, had sought the reintroduction of. But at least there is a commitment that in the event of a significant downturn in Irish tourism, that tool remains there to be deployed to intervene in the market. But I've had discussions with many economists on this and many tourism academics, and looking at our competitor nations across Europe, with probably the great exception of our closest neighbour, where the rate is 20%. And I'm speaking at a conference shortly after the budget last year in Belfast, and someone stood up and said we'd love to have a 13.5% VAT rate, but that is an exception. The rest of Europe has a low VAT rate, and we should be on 9%, and that's what I will continue to advocate. I think that is.
Would ever be an argument based on regional development for 2 different rates, one for metropolitan Dublin and one for regional areas? Again,
that's been explored. There are issues in terms of the legality of that. So what you have in other countries and we don't have are bid taxes. So a lot of countries that have relatively low VAT rates also have tourism taxes that we don't have. So when people look at the VAT rates across Europe, you don't always get a clear picture by just looking at the headline rate alone. In terms of the regional side of things, and in terms of avoiding the type of issues Patrick talked about earlier, the Barcelonas and the Venices, that may be something. Whether the political will is there at local level, I'm not sure. Within local authorities, it is a political hot potato, and that is the reality of it. Look, my feeling, my outlook always in terms of economics is that if you keep costs as low as possible, and if you keep government, particularly government charges, as low as possible, you stimulate activity, and that activity comes back more to to the state than it would if you're putting heavy taxes in place. And that's my outlook, and that's what I firmly believe in relation to the tourism industry. But just in terms of regional balance, look, things we are doing, I mean, last week alone, it was probably eclipsed by a lot of other things going on in the news cycle, but actually that €3 billion investment in the rural broadband, national broadband scheme is probably the most pro-rural policy that's ever been deployed by any government, probably since rural electrification. And that is something I think that will certainly help to sustain rural economies and reinvest that east-west balance.
Siobhan, do you think is there a danger even within the tourism industry that Kerry is seen as possibly being okay or more okay than other areas? And the new campaign, you know, Fill Your Heart, is kind of focusing on lesser well-known areas. Is there a chance that Kerry will be taken for granted?
Yeah, so phase 3 of Fill Your Heart will be filmed next year in Kerry.
Okay.
So in the first 5 months of the year. So we kind of started north of the Wild Atlantic Way and worked our way around. So the plan was always that every part of the country would be covered in the end. I think not. I think it was a softer year this year, and I think that's been a good reminder that you have to keep growth going everywhere. There are different levels of growth, I think, but if Kerry as a home of tourism really, if tourism isn't working here, the whole country suffers, and I think we see that if it's not getting the numbers up.
And the same here, I think, would be concerned by some people in the room that the emphasis in policies for the next year is on the northern part of the Wild Atlantic Way.
I think that, I think that there's some focus on north of Galway because that part of the country does need further development. But I think, as Siobhan has said, it's absolutely imperative that we promote our successes in order to maintain and grow. It's like any good product, if you don't keep that going, and if Kerry is suffering, the whole Wild Atlantic Way is suffering in a big way. So it's, and I mean, Kerry acts as such a gateway for the Wild Atlantic Way, and as a main motivator, that it's really important that will be maintained. So we're absolutely committed.
Success stories really hasn't it, the Wild Atlantic Way has been.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and actually on that one as well, something I think that's, it's still in its infancy, relatively speaking. And the gateway status for Killarney, I think, is going to be a big help for the whole county as well, in terms of enhancing the quality and perception of the Wild Atlantic Way as well as a product. But something that I'm working on with our partners in Fáilte is the concept of a Wild Atlantic walkway and cycleway. And I think that's where the real money is, and that's where the real growth potential is in the future. That's why I think that Kerry actually is ahead of the game in terms of we have outstanding products in the Kerry Way and the Dingle Way, and I'm very keen now to link those two walkways, link with the North Kerry Way and with Beara, and to create one continuous coastal walking route initially around Kerry. My vision is that the whole Wild Atlantic Way will be connected, but I think if we can be ahead of the game here in Kerry, that would be massive for us. Also Friday I will be turning this out officially on the two greenways, Fiona and the North Kerry Greenway between Listowel and the Great Southern Greenway at the Limerick border. But my vision for this county certainly would be that we would have an integrated network of greenways, that literally you could get off your bike at Kerry Airport and hop on a bike, or off the plane, hop on your bike, and never have to sit into a bus or a car or anything and do the whole county. And that actually is more achievable than many people actually realise, and we have started to put the first parts of the jigsaw together. But I think that those parts of the jigsaw, those first two, will be catalysts for other communities to demand that we get everybody connected. And you look at Killarney here, for example, we have such a great network here within the national park, going all the way up to Fuss already. That can be the genesis for other connections to towns like Killarney, places like Farnford, and other areas in the county.
So I think Ciara has some questions for us there.
Yeah, one that might be relevant to that comment there. Can we address the issue of public transport for our tourism needs? Tourists of the future will want to use public transport.
Yeah, and again, it's part of the overall green agenda, the sustainability agenda, and we are investing in a new fleet of more eco-friendly buses throughout the country, in rail, in terms of rail stock as well. But we all know that in counties like this, where you have such a broad geographical spread of tourism enterprises, that scheduled public transport probably is limited in terms of the the needs of visitors. Something I piloted in my own community which has worked extremely well, is a community car scheme, which is particularly helpful to local pubs and restaurants. It's called the Lift Scheme. It's a pilot. We've carried 3,500 passengers since February. It's a free, voluntary operated service, and many tourists in our area have used it during the summer months and have been raving about it in terms of how responsive to their needs it is, but also the novelty factor as well, of literally having a free service in what is an isolated rural area. And it's something particularly for rural publicans and restaurateurs. It's something that's important. And we are rolling out through the National Transport Authority a national pilot project now in each local link area, collaborating with local link to ensure that if there's interest in communities that don't have existing commercial hackney or taxi services, and this is all about not displacing existing commercial services, that such a service will be available to get people from A to Z, A to B, wherever they want to go within those communities in an effective and responsive way. And that's something I think has a big role to play, I think, in the future of rural transport.
Just one while we have you, Minister. The VAT on retail is 23%. Is there any potential to reduce this to match Europe?
Yeah, this was something that was done in 2011 or 2012, at the very depths of the depression, I suppose. It is something that's on the cards, certainly, and certainly the threat of online as well is something that where there is concern within the Department of Finance of a loss of revenue. Again, I'm not the Minister for Finance yet, so it's not my call ultimately. I'll help the country if I ever get into that role. But look, again, as I said earlier, I think that my general outlook in terms of economics would be that the less the less barriers you put to trade, the less difficulties you create for enterprise, I think the more you actually get back in return. So my outlook certainly would be lower tax across the board. So that would be my outlook on that.
Thank you for that. Just before we finish, can I put back on my Radio Kerry hat for a second and just thank you for the invite to be involved in today. Radio Kerry will be 30 years on air next July, so we're here for the long haul too. We absolutely recognise the importance of the tourism industry to Kerry. And just to make you aware of an initiative that we're doing in the second week of December, which will involve editorial and promos on air, called the Kerry Invite, where we'll be encouraging people who are sending a Christmas card, maybe to somebody else in another part of Ireland or abroad, to invite them to Kerry during 2020. And also to just do some promos and stuff, encouraging people if they're looking for a present for their childminder, their sister, their parents, their neighbour, to think of a hotel voucher, afternoon tea, a spa break, and just to support the tourism industry in Kerry rather than the Amazons and the people who aren't here day in, day out and stuff like that. So if anybody would like to get involved in that, just give us a shout over the coming days. So I'd like to thank Minister Griffin, Siobhan and Ciara for their insights and their good news. So thank you.